When Daenerys Targaryen burned King's Landing in the penultimate episode of Game of Thrones, millions of fans felt blindsided. The woman who broke chains and freed slaves just massacred an entire city of innocent people. But here's the thing that most viewers missed during their first watch through. This wasn't a sudden character assassination. The clues were there from the very beginning. From Season 1, Episode 1, the show was telling us exactly where this story was heading. We just didn't want to believe it. Let's start at the beginning. The first major death in Daenerys' story happens in Season 1, Episode 6, and it tells us everything we need to know about her relationship with fire and violence. Her brother Viserys, the abusive, entitled prince who sold her to Khal Drogo like property, gets his golden crown. Khal Drogo literally pours molten gold over his head, killing him in one of the most brutal deaths in the show's early seasons. Now, what matters here isn't that Viserys died. The man was terrible. What matters is Daenerys' reaction. She watches her brother burn to death while he's begging for his life, and she shows absolutely no emotion. She coldly states that he was no dragon because fire cannot kill a dragon. This is the first time we see Daenerys disconnect from human suffering when she believes justice is being served. She's not horrified by the method of execution. She's not traumatized by watching her only living family member die screaming. She's completely detached. Think about that for a second. A teenage girl watches her brother die in agony, and her takeaway is that he didn't deserve the Targaryen name. Not that the violence was horrible. Not that maybe there could have been another way. Just that he was weak and deserved what he got. That's chilling when you really think about it. Then we get to the Season 1 finale. Daenerys burns Mirri Duur alive on Khal Drogo's funeral pyre. Now, many fans defended this moment at the time because Mirri was presented as a villain. She used blood magic that left Drogo in a vegetative state and killed Daenerys' unborn child. But let's look at this from Mirri's perspective for a moment. Her village was destroyed by Drogo's Khalasar. She was raped by multiple men. She watched her temple burn. She saw the heads of people she'd healed piled in the streets. She saw children being whipped and taken into slavery. When Daenerys says she saved Mirri, Mirri rightfully asks what exactly was saved. Daenerys claims she saved her life, but Mirri had already been violated in the worst possible way and lost everything she ever cared about. So what does Mirri do? She takes revenge on the man who led the army that destroyed her entire world. And for that, Daenerys ties her to a funeral pyre and burns her alive while she screams. The woman who would later break chains and free slaves burns alive a woman whose life was destroyed by slavery and violence. The irony is almost too much. But this is where we see the pattern forming. In Daenerys' worldview, if you wrong her or the people she loves, you deserve to die screaming. There's no mercy. There's no trial. There's fire and blood. The show gives us another massive clue in Season 2. Daenerys is in Qarth, starving and desperate, and she threatens the 13 by saying that when her dragons are grown, she will burn their city to the ground. Later in the same season, she declares that she will take what is mine with fire and blood. These aren't just empty threats. She means every word. And then we get the vision in the House of the Undying. This might be the single most important scene for understanding Daenerys' ending. She enters the throne room of the Red Keep, and it's completely destroyed. For years, fans debated whether the white flakes falling from the sky were snow or ash. After Season 8, we know for certain it was ash. The throne room looks exactly like it does after she burns the city. But here's what makes this vision so powerful. Daenerys reaches toward the Iron Throne but never actually sits on it. She gets close enough to touch it, but something stops her. She then walks away and goes beyond the wall in the vision, where she reunites with Drogo and her son. This vision is telling us everything. She will destroy King's Landing. She will win the throne. But she will never actually rule. Because she'll die before she can sit on it. The vision literally shows her walking toward death, represented by going beyond the wall and joining her dead husband and child. George R.R. Martin and the showrunners put this in Season 2. They showed us the ending 7 years before it happened. We just didn't want to see it. In Season 2, Episode 4, Daenerys says something incredibly telling. She states that when her dragons are grown, they will lay waste to armies and burn cities to the ground. She's planning it. She's looking forward to it. This isn't a reluctant conqueror forced into violence. This is someone who sees fire as the solution to her problems. And to be fair, fire keeps working for her. Every time she uses her dragons, she wins. Every time she threatens to burn something, people bend the knee or die. The violence is rewarded over and over again, which teaches her that this is the right way to rule. Then there's the prophecy that gets repeated throughout the series. Every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. One side is greatness, the other is madness. Cersei mentions this in Season 2. Varys brings it up again in Season 5. And the show keeps reminding us that half of all Targaryens went mad. That's a 50% chance. And we watched Daenerys' father, Aerys the Mad King, through the story's characters told. He burned people alive because he enjoyed it. He wanted to burn all of King's Landing rather than let Robert Baratheon take it from him. He literally planned to kill everyone in the city with wildfire. That's Daenerys' father. That's her bloodline. The show told us explicitly that madness runs in her family. Now let's talk about Daenerys' time in Essos because this is where most people got confused. She freed slaves. She broke chains. She seemed like a hero. But look closer at what she actually did. In Astapor, she takes an army of Unsullied by pretending to trade her dragon, then burns the masters alive and has her new army kill the rest. She takes the city through violence and deception. In Yunkai, she threatens to burn the city, and they give her what she wants out of fear. And then there's Meereen. This is where things get really dark. When Daenerys conquers Meereen, she finds that the masters crucified 163 slave children as a warning. It's horrific. But what does Daenerys do? She crucifies 163 masters in response. Barristan Selmy, one of the wisest men in the show, tries to tell her that answering injustice with mercy is better. He tries to tell her that some of those masters might have opposed crucifying the children. But Daenerys doesn't care. She says she will answer injustice with justice. And her version of justice is exactly the same violence that was done to the children. She becomes the thing she hates. Think about the logic here. Some of those masters probably argued against killing the children. Some might have been powerless to stop it. But Daenerys kills them all anyway because they were masters. She's judging them by their class, not by their individual actions. That's the same kind of dehumanizing logic that allows any tyrant to justify mass murder. You're part of the wrong group, so you deserve to die. Individual guilt doesn't matter. This is the mentality that leads directly to burning King's Landing. If you're on Cersei's side, if you're a citizen of King's Landing who didn't rise up and overthrow her, then you're guilty by association. You deserve to burn. Throughout her time in Meereen, Daenerys faces the Sons of the Harpy, a resistance group fighting against her rule. When this happens, her first instinct is always to burn her enemies. When her advisors suggest mercy or diplomacy, she gets frustrated. After Ser Barristan dies, she rounds up the leaders of the great families and feeds one of them to her dragons without a trial. She just picks one at random and burns him alive to send a message. This is what a tyrant does. This is not what a just ruler does. And then there's the moment when Drogon kills a child. This is actually one of the most important scenes for understanding who Daenerys really is. When she finds out her dragon killed an innocent little girl, she's devastated. She chains up Rhaegal and Viserion in the catacombs to prevent more deaths, even though it hurts them. This shows that Daenerys genuinely doesn't want to hurt innocent people when she's forced to confront the reality of it directly. But here's the problem. When she doesn't see the individual victims, when they're abstract, she has no problem ordering their deaths. One dead child she can see breaks her heart. Thousands of dead children she doesn't see are acceptable casualties. In Season 6, Daenerys returns to Meereen to find it under attack. Tyrion has tried to negotiate peace with the slave masters, but they've betrayed him. Daenerys' immediate response is to burn their cities to the ground. She says she will return their cities to dirt. Tyrion has to talk her down and convince her that killing everyone isn't the answer. This happens over and over. Daenerys' first instinct is always mass destruction, and she needs someone to talk her out of it. The problem is that eventually, all those voices of reason are taken away from her. Let's talk about the pattern of Daenerys executing people who won't bend the knee. After the battle against the Lannisters in Season 7, she gives the surviving soldiers a choice. Bend the knee or die. Randall and Dickon Tarly refuse. They've fought against her, and they don't believe she should be queen. They're prisoners of war who won't switch sides. So she burns them alive with dragonfire while Tyrion begs her not to. These men aren't slavers. They're not torturing children. They're soldiers who fought for the opposing side and won't betray their cause. In any other context, refusing to betray your side would be seen as honorable. But to Daenerys, it's a death sentence. Jon Snow would have imprisoned them or sent them to the wall. Even Ned Stark, who executed deserters from the Night's Watch, did it with a sword and looked them in the eye. Daenerys just burns people with dragon fire and feels nothing. Throughout Season 7, Daenerys repeatedly wants to fly her dragons directly to the Red Keep and burn it down. She suggests this multiple times. Tyrion, Jon, and her other advisors keep talking her out of it, saying it would kill too many innocent people. So she agrees to more measured tactics. But every single one of those plans fails. Her Dornish and Tyrell allies are killed. Her fleet is attacked. She loses Viserion to the Night King. Missandei is eventually captured and executed. All the people telling her not to burn King's Landing either die or betray her trust. And in her mind, all of this happened because she listened to them instead of following her instincts. Her instincts that said burn them all from the start. Let's talk about the prophecy from the House of the Undying that we haven't fully covered yet. The Undying Ones tell Daenerys that she will know 3 treasons. One for blood, one for gold, and one for love. By Season 8, she's experienced all of them. Mirri Maz Duur was the treason for blood. Yora spying on her was arguably the treason for gold. And then there's the treason for love. When Jon Snow reveals his true identity as Aegon Targaryen, he becomes a threat to everything Daenerys wants. He has a better claim to the throne than she does. The people of Westeros love him and don't love her. Sansa tells Tyrion about Jon's parentage, and suddenly everyone knows there's someone with a more legitimate claim. From Daenerys' perspective, everyone is betraying her. Jon won't keep the secret. Sansa is actively working against her. Tyrion keeps making plans that fail. Varys literally tries to poison her and spread the word about Jon's claim. All the people she trusted most either betray her or die. Yora dies at Winterfell. Missandei is beheaded in front of her, and her last word is Dracarys. Burn them all. That's what her closest friend tells her with her dying breath. By the time Daenerys is sitting on Dragonstone preparing for the final battle, she's lost almost everything. 2 of her 3 dragons are dead. The man she loves won't be with her because they're related. The North won't accept her. She came to Westeros expecting to be welcomed as a liberator, and instead she's treated like a foreign invader. She explicitly tells Jon that she doesn't have love in Westeros. She only has fear. And she decides that fear is enough. She decides that she will rule through fear because nothing else has worked. This is the key to understanding the burning of King's Landing. Daenerys didn't snap in a moment of madness. She made a calculated decision. When the bells rang and Cersei surrendered, Daenerys had a choice. She could accept the surrender and prove she was different from her father. Or she could burn the city and teach everyone in Westeros what happens when you oppose her. She chose the latter. Not because she was crazy, but because she believed it was necessary. She believed that unless she made an example of King's Landing, someone would always challenge her claim. Someone would always prefer Jon. Someone would always rebel. So she decided to burn it all and rule over the ashes through sheer terror. This wasn't random. This was the logical endpoint of everything we'd seen her do. She's been burning her enemies alive since Season 1. She's been threatening to burn cities since Season 2. She's been executing people who won't submit since Season 3. The only difference is that before, she was doing it to people we thought deserved it. Slavers. The Dothraki Khals who threatened to rape her. The masters of Meereen who crucified children. But the underlying logic was always the same. Submit or burn. Kneel or die. It was only a matter of time before that logic was applied to people who didn't deserve it. The show gave us another crucial piece of foreshadowing in Season 8, Episode 4. When Dany is at the feast celebrating the victory over the Night King, she watches everyone praise Jon Snow. She sees how much they love him. She sees that she's an outsider. And the look on her face tells us everything. She's not happy that the living won. She's jealous that Jon is getting the credit. When Tormund shouts that you'd have to be a madman or a king to ride a dragon, the camera cuts to Daenerys on the word madman, then to Jon on the word king. The editing is telling us that Daenerys is the madman and Jon is the rightful king. It's not subtle. They're showing us exactly what's coming. Even the way Daenerys talks about breaking the wheel reveals her true nature. She says she's going to break the wheel that crushes people beneath it. Sounds noble, right? But breaking the wheel doesn't mean creating a better system. It means destroying the existing one. And what does she plan to put in its place? Herself. She'll be a good queen, she promises. She'll rule justly. Trust her. But that's what every tyrant says. I'll be different. I'll be better. I deserve absolute power because I'll use it wisely. Except she's been showing us for 7 seasons that her idea of justice is burning people alive. George R.R. Martin has said in interviews that Daenerys' ending was always planned. This wasn't something the showrunners made up. This is where the books are heading to. In the books, there's even more foreshadowing. Daenerys has a vision of her father on the throne saying, "Let him be king of ashes." She thinks about how she doesn't want to rule over a destroyed city. But the fact that she's thinking about it at all tells us it's a possibility she's considered. In the books, there's a line where she thinks that the Dothraki sacked cities and plundered kingdoms, but they didn't rule them. And she thinks she has no wish to reduce King's Landing to a blackened ruin. The fact that George R.R. Martin has her think these exact words means he's setting up the irony of her doing exactly that. There's also the prophecy about the prince that was promised. Many people thought it was Daenerys. But prophecies in this story are always twisted. The prince that was promised was supposed to save the world. Daenerys did fight the Night King's army. But she also became one of the greatest mass murderers in Westerosi history. Maybe she was promised to the world, but not in the way anyone expected. Maybe breaking the wheel meant burning everything down, not building something better. One of the most tragic aspects of Daenerys' story is that she genuinely believed she was the hero. She believed she was liberating people. She believed she was creating a better world. She saw herself as fundamentally different from the tyrants she overthrew. But tyranny isn't about how you see yourself. It's about how you treat other people. It's about whether you value human life or see people as obstacles to your vision. And Daenerys repeatedly showed that anyone who opposed her vision had to die. That's tyranny, even if she called it liberation. The burning of King's Landing wasn't character assassination. It was the culmination of 8 seasons of foreshadowing. From the moment she watched Viserys die without emotion, to the moment she burned Mirri Maz Duur, to the Crucifixions in Meereen, to burning the Tarlys, every step was leading here. The show told us over and over that Daenerys' solution to every problem was fire. That her sense of justice was absolute and unforgiving. That she believed ends justified means. That she saw herself as special, as different from everyone else, as destined to rule. The tragedy is that Daenerys had chances to be different. When Ser Barristan advised mercy, she could have listened. When Tyrion warned her about her father's madness, she could have reflected on her own actions. When Jon pulled away from her, she could have accepted that maybe ruling wasn't her destiny. But at every turn, she chose power. She chose dragons. She chose fire and blood. Because in her mind, she was owed the throne. She deserved to rule. And anyone who stood in the way of her destiny deserved to burn. The saddest part is that Daenerys was a victim before she became a villain. She was sold like property by her brother. She was raped by Drogon, even if the show tried to make their relationship romantic. She survived by becoming hard. By learning that the only way to avoid being hurt was to be the one with power. By deciding that she would never be weak again. And that transformation from victim to survivor to conqueror to tyrant is realistic. It happens in the real world. People who are hurt often hurt others. People who seek power to protect themselves often become the very thing they feared. So when people say Daenerys' turn came out of nowhere, they weren't watching closely enough. The show told us who she was in every episode. We just didn't want to believe it because she was fighting people we thought were worse than her. Because freeing slaves is objectively good, so we ignored how she did it. Because her enemies were often horrible, so we didn't question her methods. But the methods matter. The willingness to burn, to destroy, to kill without mercy, that matters. And it was there from the very first season. Daenerys Targaryen was always going to burn King's Landing. The gods flipped the coin when she was born, and it landed on madness dressed up as destiny. The clues were there from the beginning. Fire and blood. When my dragons are grown, we will burn cities to the ground. She told us who she was. We just didn't listen until it was too late. And that's the real tragedy of her story. Not that she became a monster, but that she was becoming one all along, and we were too invested in her being the hero to see it.